My name is Businge Martha, and I'll be making a presentation on gender and sorghum trade preferences in Agago District, Uganda. This is the outline of my presentation. Crops are produced and utilized within a social context, gender being one of the major social categories, for it is central to the social organizational variety and seed management in terms of division of labor, knowledge and skills that pertain to the maintenance of these varieties, but as well as access and use of resources that are used to maintain these varieties. Failure to recognize the contribution of gender in the management of these varieties can perpetuate an important gap in understanding on-farm conservation of crop varieties. Therefore, this study set out to understand the role of men and women, the role men and women play in production, processing, use, and marketing of traditional sorghums, and whether there were gender trait preferences for traditional sorghum varieties. This study was carried out in Agago District, located in the northern part of Uganda, the northern region of Uganda. And this is majorly because sorghum is a priority food crop, food security crop in this district, but also sorghum is the highest produced food crop in this district. The study utilized both qualitative and quantitative data, and these were collected simultaneously. Quantitative data was analyzed using SPSS, and descriptive statistics were used to determine the average gender distribution of labor for activity in the production and utilization of traditional sorghum. A man-kidney test was also carried out to determine whether there was a significant difference in the level of importance men and women attached to the different sorghum characteristics. Ranks of the different sorghum characteristics from each focus group discussion groups were subjected to Garant ranking tests to obtain the overall assigned rank for each of the characteristics by gender. Qualitative data was organized and analyzed in relation to sorghum production and utilization practices. Overall, seed management, processing activities, and marketing activities were done by women in more than half of the households that were interviewed, while field activities were jointly done by both women and men. It is, however, to be noted that there were activities within field activities, there were sub-activities within under field activities that were done in line with gender. Like, for instance, weeding was exclusively done by women, and this was majorly because at that time of the season, men attending to their other gardens of cash-earning crops like simsim, sunflower. So the women were left to weed the traditional sorghum variety gardens. Also, it was believed in this community that men were skilled in broadcasting because they had done this role over and over again in the past years. So they are believed to be skilled in broadcasting and therefore know the seeding rate per plot. So when it came to planting, broadcasting was almost exclusively done by men, while women went about the garden covering the seed that had been broadcast. When it came to land preparation, first land preparation was done by men, while second land preparation, because it was labeled to be hectic and required a lot of energy and required a lot of hard labor, it was done by men. But when it came to second land preparation, it was done by women. Now, we also noted that in households at processing, households that engaged that engaged in that took their sorghums to milling machine, we saw that there was a slight increase in men participation in this activity, especially when a household took its grain for milling at the milling machine. We saw that here men were involved in some of these households. Men were involved in either taking this sorghum to the milling machine or even giving some money to the wife to take this sorghum to the milling machine. And then when it came to ranking, the three most important characteristics for both men and women were taste of bread, marketability, and good yield. Now, we noted that generally in men's focus group discussions, they generally ranked taste of bread as number one, while women generally ranked marketability over taste of bread as number one. Now, this was because men viewed sorghum as a crop that is grown for home consumption. And as a result, for them, taste of bread was very, very important and hence ranked number one. But when it came to women, as much as sorghum was grown for home consumption, this sorghum crop presented a chance for women to get some small income, like for instance, small monies to buy salt, sugar, and soap. So for them, and this is in the household, sorghum is one of those crops that the women were had some entitlement to sell without having to even first inquire from the husband, to sell in order to get some basic necessities. So to them, a sorghum variety that could easily be sold within the community. Say to your neighbor, say, I have a small, I need soap and I can sell a cup of sorghum to get some money to buy soap. That kind of sorghum that was easily sold within the community was liked by women because it enabled them to access those small monies quickly in order to meet these small basic needs within the household. Now, when it came to threshability and ease to grind, in the women's groups, they generally ranked threshability higher than the characteristic of ease to grind. And this is because of the introduction of milling machines in the community. Because with this, the process of grinding or milling has been eased. So women these days are more keen on the threshability aspect. That is a sorghum variety that is easy to thresh, one that you thresh once, not having to thresh, beat, and then pound again in a mortar. So women preferred those varieties that were easier to thresh and even were more keen on this particular characteristic of threshability as compared to is to grind because of the existence of these milling machines in the recent times. Results from the Mann-Whitney U test showed that there was a significant difference between men and women's reported importance for processing qualities of traditional sorghum. And we see that the women's means were significantly higher than the means that were obtained from men. And this can be attributed to the fact that women are highly involved in this processing activity, as had earlier seen in the activity profile, that more than half of the women were involved in more than half of the household. Women were majorly involved in the processing activity. In conclusion, continued production and utilization of traditional sorghum is a result of the efforts of both men and women, though majority of the labor burden lies on women. Secondly, there was a gendered difference in preferences for characteristics of ease of grind, ease of threshing, taste, and marketability. From this study, sorghum improvement programs can draw lessons that, besides marketability, taste, and yield, close attention should be drawn to local women processing related trade preferences. And this is to enhance effective adoption of new sorghum varieties. Secondly, improvement that comes at the cost of ease of threshing can negatively affect variety assessment by women and could consequently affect the successful introduction of improved sorghum varieties. Thank you very much.